You won't believe what just happened to Chebby today. Tears, shock, and a heartbreaking truth that nobody saw coming. Chebby just broke down on TikTok, mourning the sudden death of Betty Bayo, and what she revealed has left the entire nation speechless. Because this wasn't just a normal tragedy. A wedding was being planned, meetings with close friends, size 8, and even members of the Murayas family were already involved. Everything was being set up for a new chapter in Betty's life, and then suddenly, tragedy struck. But that is not even all. Wait until you hear what Chebby just said next. Her emotional confession has raised new questions, new suspicions, and a new heartbreak. Stick around because the details you're about to hear in this video will blow your mind and change how you see everything that happened behind the scenes. On Monday, November 10th of 2025, at exactly 1:03 p.m. in the afternoon, Kenyan gospel music industry was shattered beyond words. Betty Bayo, born Beatrice Wairimu Mbugua, the voice behind the legendary anthem 11th Hour, took her last breath at Kenyatta National Hospital's private wing. Now, let me tell you about Chebby and what happened when news of Betty Bayo's death reached her. Chebby, the popular content creator, wife to comedian Terence Creative, was not just a colleague to Betty Bayo, she was a friend, and when Betty Bayo passed away, Chebby did not just post a simple condolence message and move on with her life. From the very first day, Chebby was actively involved in the funeral arrangement meetings at Betty Bayo's home. She attended every planning session. She was there when the burial committee gathered at Blue Springs Hotel on Thika Road. She was there when friends like Karagwa Muraya, Bishop Wanderi and Shiro Wajipi, and Elder David Kigomo met to organize the funeral. And on Thursday, November 20th of 2025, Chebby stood at Ndumberi Stadium, surrounded by thousands of mourners, watching as her friend was laid to rest. She arrived alongside her husband Terence Creative, offering support, helping managing the proceedings, tears flowing freely as the reality hit harder and harder with each passing moment. Now here is where this story takes a turn that will break your heart into a million pieces. Betty Bayo and Tash, they were planning something big, and let me take you back to December 17th of 2021. When Betty Bayo and Hiram Gitau, the man affectionately known as Tash, held their traditional Kikuyu Rurashio wedding ceremony, it was beautiful. A fleet of high-end cars, written Bayo and Tash, transported them to the venue. Tash had to identify his bride from a group of women, all covered up in matching lassos. And you know what Betty Bayo posted? He even knows how I smell. That is love right there. The gospel stars like Mr. Sid performed at the wedding. DJ Mo was there, and the entire gospel community celebrated this union. But here is what many people didn't know. That traditional wedding was just the beginning. Reports indicate that Betty Bayo and Tash were planning to take the next step, a church wedding. Remember, Betty Bayo had stated publicly that she did not consider herself a divorcee from Pastor Kanyari because their relationship never went through a formal church wedding. This time, she wanted to do it right. Tash was actively involved in setting up meetings with close friends and fellow gospel artists to plan this celebration. Now, let me tell you about what Tash shared and why this left everyone in tears. When Tash took the pulpit at Ndumberi Stadium to eulogize his beloved wife, he could barely speak. His words came out broken, choked by tears and weighed by grief that no script could prepare anyone for. Listen to what this man said. "There is a silence in our home that now echoes. Losing you, I have lost the compass by which I navigated the world. The pain I have found myself turning to share with you, only to find an empty space. I reach for you in the night and find cold sheets. Can you imagine? A man who found love after 2 years of careful friendship, who bought Betty Bayo's son Danny a bicycle because the boy mentioned his mother had promised him one years ago, whom the children's hurt before winning their mother's heart, now sleeping alone, reaching for a woman who will never return again." But Tash did not just mourn Betty Bayo, he made a promise. He looked at Sky and Danny, Betty Bayo's children with Pastor Kanyari, and he said, they will be loved and fiercely protected, always. Nothing they desire or hope for will go uncommitted or undone. This man, who has no biological children with Betty Bayo, promised to care for her kids as if they were his own flesh and blood. He said, I am shattered but not broken. I am wounded but still standing. And then his final words to Betty, rest now, my beautiful wife. Your watch has ended. Mine continues, fueled by a love that even death cannot dim. Now here is where the story shows a power of community and why Betty Bayo's legacy will never be forgotten. When word spread about Betty's passing, the gospel community mobilized like never before. A burial committee was formed, co-chaired by gospel singer Ben Gidai and Elder David Gikomo. Evening morning sessions were held daily at Blue Springs Hotel, at Betty Bayo's home in Edenville Estate, and at Pastor Kanyari's church in Kayole Junction. The budget for her funeral, 5 million Kenyan shillings, and the support that poured in was overwhelming. Deputy President Kithure Kindiki attended the funeral personally and announced that he and President William Ruto would contribute 10 million shillings to a trust fund for Betty Bayo's children. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta donated 1 million Kenyan shillings and promised scholarships through the Kenyatta Foundation. Shirowa GP, Betty Bayo's friend, declared publicly, I will not allow Betty Bayo's children to have a difficult life or regret that their mother was a celebrity. And the company where Betty Bayo served as brand ambassador, Virtuous Explorers, announced that her contract would continue even after her death, creating an income stream for Sky and Danny. Even Pastor Kanyari, Betty Bayo's ex-husband, the man whose scandal once threatened to destroy her, stood at her funeral and apologized publicly. I am truly sorry that my brand, my name and my drama put you through a difficult moments. And then he praised her for never turning their children against him and for never denying them a father. On Thursday, November 20th of 2025, thousands gathered at Ndumberi Stadium in Kiambu County. The color theme was green, matching the casket that carried Betty Bayo's remains. Celebrities filled the stadium: Karagwa Muraya, DJ Mo, Waithaka Wajeni, Gloria Muliro, Rose Mohando from Tanzania. Political leaders arrived, including Deputy President Kindiki and MP Karen Nyamu. Bishop Michael Wanderi, the man who led Betty Bayo's worship at CFF Church, delivered an emotional sermon from the Book of Revelation. Rose Mohando, overwhelmed with emotion, recalled how Betty Bayo had taken her to hospital years ago when she fell ill in Kenya. Betty was a sister and a friend. My children loved her because they know she was there for me at my lowest. And Bishop Wanderi revealed something remarkable. Betty had contributed 500,000 Kenyan shillings when he was starting his church. This woman who sang about the 11th hour, about God showing up when all hope seemed lost, had been quietly blessing others behind the scenes all along. Betty's green casket was lowered into a grave plastered with white tiles at her home in Mugumo Estate, the land she had purchased with her own money, the home she was building for her family. Her husband Tash wore an outfit that matched the casket, green, the same color they wore when Betty Bayo first introduced him to the public. Family members threw soil into the grave, and one by one, as Kikuyu dirges filled the air, her daughter Sky, barely able to stand, supported by her cousins, wept as she watched her mother disappear into the earth. Her son Danny, trying so hard to be strong, had earlier promised, even though you are not with us here, I carry your love wherever I go. I will try my best to live in a way that makes you proud. Now let me tell you why Betty Bayo stories matter. Beyond the tears, beyond the tragedy, Betty Bayo was born the last of 8 children in Banana, Kiambu County. She knew poverty, she knew struggle, and she knew what it meant to hustle. And when she found her voice, she did not sing about perfection. She sang about real life, financial pressure, heartbreak, single motherhood, and spiritual doubt. Her song 11th Hour became more than just music. It became an anthem of hope for millions. And when you think that all is lost, God shows up at the 11th hour. And even on her final day, before losing her speech completely, Betty Bayo sang the same song, 11th Hour. Her mother Joyce Mbugua, watching from Seattle through a live stream, shared that Betty Bayo had a gift from God since her childhood. By age 12, she was already leading others in worship and fasting. No mother should ever have to go through this experience, Joyce said. Yet even in pain, I say what you would have said. It is God's will. Betty Bayo's journey from poverty to fame, from scandal to redemption, and from heartbreak to love ended at 40 years old. She leaves behind 2 children who adored her, a husband who cannot stop reaching for her in the night, and millions of fans whose lives were changed by her music. But her legacy, her music, her testimony, her example of fighting through the storms and finding love again, that will never die. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below, what is your favorite Betty Bayo song? And remember, no matter what hour you find yourself in, your breakthrough could be closer than you think. Rest in peace, Betty Bayo. Kenya will never forget you.